The Undertaker is a wrestler who needs no introduction, maybe one of the most famous wrestlers of all time. What really drew people to The Undertaker was his pure inability to break character. The Undertaker character was so dedicated to keeping kayfabe for over 30 years plus, even down to the point of having no social media and hardly ever being spotted in public. And so a couple of years ago, when he started a podcast that would see him breaking kayfabe like he had never done before, there was huge hype around it. I am of course talking about 6 Feet Under with Mark Calaway. The Undertaker's podcast 6 Feet Under with Mark Calaway took off super quickly and got really popular with fans, and alongside his co-host Matt, they were making some good content and seemed to be entering the prime years of the channel until it abruptly ended, and now the show is under the WWE banner and absolutely not the same, with many fans calling Undertaker a sellout. There's many layers to this story, so like this video as we discuss the rise and fall of 6 Feet Under with Mark Calaway and why the show has completely fell off in quality. Right, so as I said at the start of the video, Undertaker is unlike any other character in wrestling because he was just so damn dedicated to keeping kayfabe. So when the 6 Feet Under podcast began in October of 2023, there was instant intrigue because Undertaker had never spoken so candidly about his career like this before. The first video on the YouTube channel was uploaded on October 24th, 2023, as he talked about ripping his pants before meeting Vince McMahon. And yeah, this got really good feedback. People enjoyed it. People enjoyed listening to Undertaker speak in a way he never had before. If you told me hell even 5 years ago Undertaker would have a podcast, I would have said get the fuck out of here. But it's here, and it's so surreal seeing Taker so open. Can't wait to hear the never before told stories. Alongside Taker on screen, though, you may have noticed, is another man, that guy being Matt, who is the co-host of 6 Feet Under, or as I should say, was the co-host. We'll get there though. So Matt, as far as I'm aware, doesn't have any sort of connection with pro wrestling other than just being a real life friend of The Undertaker, but it was actually Matt who pitched this show to The Undertaker whilst the two were at a Texas steakhouse. And obviously, due to a lack of familiarity, a lot of people weren't super warm to Matt immediately and didn't realize actually how important to this podcast he was. As a wrestling YouTuber, I cannot stress enough that a guy like Matt is imperative to have on a podcast like this because these boomer wrestlers do not know how to use technology. Not only that, but Matt makes it easier for Undertaker to bounce off of him and makes the conversation more natural, so it doesn't just feel like a big long monologue or big long promo from The Undertaker. But it was only up from here for the channel. In that first video, they could be seen talking on 2 chairs in a random room, seemingly in Taker's house. However, as the show would go on, the budget would get upped and they would get their own studio space, they would start getting guests and pumping out content, which would continue to do great numbers, and the channel was growing quick. They'd get all sorts of guests, from Chris Van Vliet to Maven to Mark Henry to Devon Dudley, Stephen Amell, Tony Hinchcliffe, and of course Donald Trump. And yeah, 6 Feet Under would just continue to pump out the content and get more guests and continue to grow and just up the levels. The rapid success and quick growth of 6 Feet Under, which was nothing short of a huge success, was a perfect storm of Undertaker reaping the rewards for 30 plus years of character work and never breaking kayfabe, and just in general a really well put together show with good topics, high level guests, good content, and Matt doing a great job too, at a time where this style of pro wrestling content was really taking off with other guys like Maven Huffman. And with the channel boasting nearly 800,000 subscribers going into 2025, it really felt like they were now entering the golden years and it was only gonna get even better. However, in March of 2025, 6 Feet Under with Mark Calaway would suddenly vanish from YouTube and stop uploading, with their last upload taking place on March 10th of 2025, as they would disappear unaddressed and not upload their usual daily doses of content from this point onwards. Fans were left wondering what was going on, but were very quick to figure it out, as that same month in March of 2025, it was reported that WWE were teaming up with Fanatics to launch a new series of podcasts, as they would officially announce the Raw recap, but would also tease that some superstars and legends of the sport will be hosting hosting future podcasts. And so many fans guessed that 6 Feet Under was now going to be under the WWE/Fanatics umbrella, and sure enough that was correct, as WWE Fanatics would bring us the What Do You Want to Talk About podcast with Cody Rhodes, the What's Your Story podcast with Stephanie McMahon, and of course 6 Feet Under with The Undertaker. And when an independent podcast is taken over by a big company like WWE, there's obviously going to be major changes and now restrictions in the kind of content that's going to be made, and obviously 6 Feet Under fans were very much left wondering what kind of changes were going to be taking place to the show, because it kind of felt like 6 Feet Under already had the perfect format before they went over to WWE. And well, the biggest change of all would be revealed when the first episode of 6 Feet Under would be posted on June 12th of 2025 on the WWE YouTube channel, as the brand new co-host of 6 Feet Under, now replacing Matt, was none other than Michelle McCool. Now, I have absolutely no issue with Michelle McCool whatsoever. However, if you don't know, Michelle McCool, the former WWE wrestler and WWE Divas and Women's Champion, is the real-life wife of The Undertaker, so instantly it kind of feels like a nepotism pick. And of course, the main aspect is that Matt is now gone, and Matt, like I said, was an imperative part of this podcast, because as a non-wrestler and as a guy more in touch with podcasts and how they are, he really kept the flow of the show together, and the chemistry was just totally not the same, and many of the fans that were hating on Matt when he first joined the podcast were now left missing him following the postage of this first episode with The Undertaker and Michelle McCool. The character development of Taker's fans from hating on Matt to missing him. I feel like I'm watching a couples therapy session. I'm tapping out. Rest in peace, Taker. Taker's biggest heel turn of all time. This is a 6 feet blunder. I didn't realize how much I actually liked Matt until I watched some of this. I can't wait to hear about their grocery shopping trips and how they got together for the 100th time. So yeah, the sentiment clearly was being shared by other 6 Feet Under fans, and people were really not happy with this podcast, as there was just an instant drop in quality and it was nowhere near the same, and the changes were just far too apparent. Following this episode, all their future episodes would have guests on. They've had Bron Breakker, Charlotte Flair, Shawn Michaels, Gunther, and Bubba Ray Dudley since then, and this is probably the main reason why they shifted over to being under the WWE umbrella. It means they have access to getting these guests from the current roster much easier. However, it came with the cost of losing Matt, who was really a pivotal part of the show, and the show was very much complete with Matt as a part of it, and Matt would actually go onto Maven Huffman's YouTube channel on August 15th, 2025, where he would open up about his abrupt departure of the show.
We do that, we get done. I do what I always do. Man, how's everything going? How's the wife, kids, all that stuff? How's the home? And he goes, I really want to talk to you about some stuff. I was like, okay. I thought that he was about to tell me, I'm done.
You thought he was going to quit altogether,
yeah.
Which is too much.
I thought he was just going to be like, hey man, LFG, everything else, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm too much on my plate. Yeah. He's like, hey, the podcast is going to be taken over by WWE and all. That's what, we're going to move in that direction.
So this was news to you?
Yeah.
You had no clue?
No clue at that point. And I was like, so I'm assuming that this is the end of my run on this. And he goes, yeah, unfortunately. I was like,
but wait a minute, you're part owner, correct?
No, yes. I mean, he and I talked for a little bit more. I go outside with him, he's at his truck, and he just looked at me and he goes, we good? I said, Mark, we said something a long time ago. We were at a hotel here in Savannah, and we shook hands and we said, if money ever comes in between us, we're gonna shut the whole thing down.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to the woods and we're gonna go hunting.
And
that's it. And we'll forget about all of it.
It's a true shame that Matt had to be forced to step away from 6 Feet Under due to them now being affiliated with the WWE, but at the same time, it's also kind of expected to me. WWE were never gonna let Undertaker and Matt have full creative control. Also, Matt didn't have any affiliation with WWE at all prior to the podcast. He wasn't hired at all before this. And also, in regards to Michelle McCool taking over as the co-host, are we even surprised? In that same year, we watched Michelle McCool take over as the judge on WWE LFG over Mickie James, for really no reason whatsoever other than what can only be perceived as nepotism. And it kind of felt like seeing history repeat itself when Michelle McCool would then take over Matt's spot as the podcast host. And overall, the show has taken a total nosedive in quality. Whilst the numbers might still be doing okay-ish, it just isn't the same anymore, and it isn't the 6 feet under that people subscribed for to begin with. Many share the sentiment that the show was better with Matt because it was just 3 dudes shooting the shit, and now it just feels like couples therapy with Mark Calaway and Michelle McCool, and who cares? But yeah, that's about all I can really say about the rise and fall of 6 feet under with Undertaker / Mark Calaway, and why removing Matt was the worst thing that could ever have happened to Mark Calaway's 6 feet under show, and why adding Michelle McCool was just not it whatsoever. If you were a former 6 feet under with Mark Calaway fan, let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts on the current state of 6 feet under are. Like this video if you did enjoy it, and subscribe with notifications on so you never miss a video on the Top 10 Wrestling YouTube channel. I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye, and keep on rolling.